At some point, I'm going to create like an actual intro because I plan on doing this more often. I always say that. I'm going to do this more often, but whatever. So right now, all you get is music for an intro. Earlier, I teased out that I was going to be going live because there was something that came to my attention fairly recently, and I wanted to talk about it because I was taken aback by this particular assertion. It's the assertion that the radio station I work for during the day, 1017 The Truth, is a conservative black talk radio station. I don't think that we are. However, if you became familiar with the truth by listening based on your schedule, and if your schedule, whatever your work schedule is, or your social schedule, whatever, if it only allows you to listen between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m., I could totally get that. I totally understand it. But for us to be labeled as a black conservative talk radio station by more than a few people is problematic for me. Like, I'm not going to go through my resume. You know, I've worked for Democratic officials, a mayor, a member of Congress, a governor, state senator, the whole thing. Worked on a presidential campaign for 25 years, essentially, of my life. I've been working in politics, all for Democrats, not a Republican at all. So that's the perspective that I come from. And if you look at the work that we did collectively last year, you know, the number of times we interviewed, whether it be the president, the vice president, I can't tell you how many different surrogates all supporting Kamala Harris, even non-political folks. And Ben and Carrie are not political. Like, their whole brand of talk radio is, you know, it's pop culture, it's entertainment, it's music, it's decidedly aimed at a younger demographic that isn't always, you know, following politics like older folks are, right? But even they became political. I think the issue is, if there is an issue, it's that, of course, there's African Americans that are Republicans, that are conservatives. It's hard for me to square that circle because right now, if you are currently a Republican or a conservative or you support Donald Trump, you also can't believe that white racism is a problem because they are literally erasing and evaporating our contributions and our history right before our eyes. And this whole anti-DEI thing, where within like 72 hours of Trump being sworn in, they suspended the emails of people that worked in federal departments that they believe were DEI hires. And here's the thing, they're doing this and they're operating within the confines of federal law because you can't just fire somebody because they're black or they're Latino or they're Asian, but you can lump them together and say, oh, they're a DEI hire and we're getting rid of DEI. Pete Hegseth, who has bias against people that are black, that are Hispanic, that are Asian, that are serving this country, saying, oh, a bunch of these people and these promotions that some of these people got in the U.S. military, which is the most merit-based system that we have in this country. Well, some of those people got their ranks and their insignias because of the color of their skin. And this administration is promoting that. And I don't know how black people that are Republicans and conservatives believe that they can benefit from that system, right? But we have African Americans that vote for Republicans, and I have my disagreements with them, and I have my disagreements with them publicly and privately. It is what it is. But I think where we got it wrong is the number of hosts on 1017 The Truth that are decidedly Republican-leaning and conservative, if not outright Trump-loving and Trump-supporting, is higher in percentage than African Americans that listen to The Truth. And let me also be clear about this. The Truth is way more than a black radio station. Way more. I mean, there are some days where I get just as many or more non-black callers as I do black callers. And, like, that's a fantastic thing because we've grown this platform from zero to new to nothing, didn't exist, to being on CNN. And what I think is even bigger than that is I had the opportunity last year to join the British Broadcasting Company, once by myself and another time Dr. Ken joined me. And some people think the CNN thing is big, and it is. CNN is huge. Don't get me wrong. Trust me, that's a big deal. But the British Broadcasting Corporation is infinitely larger. The BBC has got 450 million international viewers. Just to put in perspective how important last year's presidential election was, because these other countries countries that the British Broadcasting Corporation broadcast to, knew that if Donald Trump got elected, he would do things with the economy and screw around with tariffs in a way that would hurt other nations. And so they wanted to know what was going on in America with our politics, as they should want to know because it can impact them and their economy, right? The weird thing is, and I think it's hard for a lot of Americans to relate, we don't follow other countries' presidential elections. Right? Canada, our neighbor to the north, I think I don't even know, and I should know. They just have like a presidential election or a new prime minister or whatever the hell they do. And as Americans, we don't follow that because we're so egocentric in America that we think the rest of the world revolves around us. And maybe to some extent the rest of the world does. And so many countries pay attention to American politics. And if you pay attention to American politics, of course, you want to know what is going on in America. How is Kamala Harris doing? Because other countries knew, especially Europe, that if Trump got elected, it could mean pulling out of NATO. It could mean an interruption in supply chains, a higher cost of goods, a higher cost of doing business, and higher tariffs. And so if you're following American politics, you got to follow the battleground states. Wisconsin is one of those. And so the inordinate amount of attention that our radio platform got exceeds its original brand of Black Talk Radio. I think it started off as that, but our personalities are so big and our coverage is so important from a state that plays a crucial and pivotal role in elections. We have outpaced the Black Talk Radio moniker that I think we all began with. The troubling thing is that the nickname that we have received as conservative Black Talk Radio does not take into account that there are other voices on the truth. Kyle Wallace, who has a new show, Truth to Power, who's on after me. Kyle is on from noon until 1 o'clock. Kyle's not a political dude. Now, just like everybody else on our platform, we were forced essentially to be more political because we're broadcasters. We have a coveted platform in which we broadcast essentially everywhere on YouTube, podcasts, on the website, and on FM radio in Milwaukee. And because we play such a crucial role in our audience, which I thought at one time was majority African American, I'm not sure what the hell it is now, the information that our audience receives was so incredibly crucial, not just to the Harris campaign, but for democracy as a whole, that we were all forced to be more political. I love the fact that Ben and Kerry got to have conversations with a Jasmine Crockett or even Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. Like, that is fantastic because I want Black people to be more politically engaged because of what we are going through right now. But I think to mislabel the truth as a conservative Black Talk radio station, and like a bunch of people have been saying that. This is not just a couple of folks that are saying that, and it's actually more than a rumor that we're a Black conservative talk radio station, I think is problematic. Now, do we have a disproportionate number of conservatives broadcasting on the truth compared to the percentage of African Americans that vote for Republicans? Absolutely. But I think to label us as such I think it flies in the face of the work that a lot of us that we've done in Democratic politics, right? If you look at the original cast, the starting cast of The Truth, so January 4th, 2021, the only people that are still broadcasting, why am I making all these sounds? Are you guys hearing those sounds? The original cast is just me and Tori, as far as hosts go. On the first day we broadcasted, it was just myself and Tori that are still broadcasting right now because our first incarnation of the morning show was Joe Brown and Melanie Ricks. That's flown the coop. You know, we had DT and Telly. They don't have a show anymore. We've had a bunch of different incarnations of, the shows that were on from noon until 1. And even Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken wasn't there the first 2 weeks we started broadcasting. So he was not technically an original. And so we have built something that exceeded all expectations because, let me be clear about this. When The Truth was started, it wasn't started as a result of a tremendous amount of research done into the African American radio consumer, podcast consumer, product consumer. Like, a whole bunch of research wasn't done to say, oh, we're going to create a radio platform based on this research. No, a bunch of people that have I guess, some level of respect or some following in the community. We're all put together and given microphones, and then we kind of hope for the best. Well, I think the formula worked. It's problematic for me, though, when we are being mislabeled, and I think it is hurting us because we do have a number of people that support this current administration. I think much to the chagrin of members of our community, because 90% of the people in our black community, and I need to stay true to that, right? Like I broadcast and I share information, but I want to provide information to African Americans because nobody has taught us about politics. Whatever school you went to, especially if you went to school in Milwaukee, there was reading, there was math, reading comprehension, maybe you got some social studies. No one taught us how to be political animals. No one taught us about the connection between the civil rights movement and its means to an end, which created meaningful policy, which protected our rights. We always had rights, but they weren't protected. We were always citizens, but our rights as citizens weren't protected. And so it has never really been a part of any major education pedagogy in this country to teach black children that their existence, our very humanity, is in fact political. And if we are out here in this world, especially now, not realizing that our existence and our humanity is tied to politics, when they start to erode some of our humanity through politics, we won't be able to recognize it, and damn it, we won't be able to stop it. So that is where my aim and my focus is. There are other races and nationalities and religions of people that also find what I talk about interesting, and I appreciate that. But my aim is to provide information to people that were kept from it, because had we been informed the entire way, like if it was a part of your high school's curriculum where you couldn't graduate from high school unless you knew political science and how it impacts race and how it impacts, economics. If that existed in our pedagogy, then I wouldn't have to talk about the things that I talk about. I also don't know how you square the circle of being a current African American and supporting this president just with his erosion of due process, which is the one thing that African Americans, I think, have called for the most. So I said all that to say this. So we got people saying, "Oh, we're a conservative black radio station," because if what they know about the truth is some of our more extreme political positions, and I say our extreme political positions because we have more hosts that are conservative than the African American community, which is our original niche, votes for Republicans. Okay. Well, today my colleague Tori Lowe interviewed Ron Johnson, which I think is great. Ron Johnson is my U.S. Senator. Did I vote for him? I did not. But he still represents me. And I want our listeners to hear from the people that we elect, whether you voted for them or not, because that's just a part of the responsibility, theirs and ours. I also know that there's not a lot of places where especially African Americans can hear from their elected officials to get an idea of what policies our elected officials are supporting. Tammy Baldwin, I haven't interviewed her in, I can't remember, maybe once since I've been at The Truth, maybe once when I was at WNOV. Ron Johnson is decidedly on The Truth way more than Tammy Baldwin is. And I don't know if that says something bad about Tammy or something good about Ron Johnson. Either way, I want people who listen to us, whatever show, to be able to, at least on occasion, hear from their elected officials. But when I watched the interview with Tori, and this is no judgment against Tori, Ron Johnson he spewed Trump propaganda. And I just sat in utter disbelief. Because there was, I'm sure, somebody listening to that exchange. I got it, actually. I got the interview.